Welcome to the Ruden Report podcast. I'm Dave Ruden, and we have a little bit of a unique special podcast today. I know the calendar says May, almost June, but we're going to talk girls soccer today. Joining me right now, somebody everybody's pretty familiar with, the two-time Gatorade State Girls Soccer Player of the Year, Alexa Pino from St. Joseph, but we're not going to be talking any cadet soccer, I don't think, today. Alexis had quite an experience since we last visited with her, and I wanted to get her on here to talk about it. So, Alexa, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
So a lot has happened since we last spoke. You've been traveling, you've been overseas, you've had some different soccer experiences. So I know the biggest one, I guess, and you know I'll let you tell the whole story. But I saw this on social media. I guess you were playing with the Philippine U17 team in a world, I guess it was a World Cup qualifier in
Yes.
Indonesia.
Yep. That's exactly what it was.
Okay, you're gonna have to take me through how you found out about the team, made the team, and we'll talk a little bit about the experience.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm pretty sure it started back when my dad and I saw some sort of advertisement for the team on social media somewhere. And it was about a camp somewhere in California where it was an invite only. But so we reached out to one of the coordinators of the team and the coach, and they said, okay, let's see a highlight of you, and we'll see if we want you to come down so you don't just travel for no reason. And so we sent them my highlight video, and they said, okay, we're interested. So we flew down to Irvine, California. And that was actually where I tried out for the women's senior team. And the U17s were also there at the time, but their camp had ended right after the camp with the seniors started. So I was just practicing with the seniors for a few days. But so that ended up working out with the seniors too. They said we had the most important thing was getting my passport ready to go and stuff so I could travel and be on the team with everybody. That was the most important thing, which wasn't an issue. Um, and then
When exactly did you find out you had made the team?
so after that tryout, I had a talk with the head coach for the women's team, and they were very interested. But the women, it wasn't really the women's year. It was so the U17 World Cup was coming up. So they said, okay, we're very interested in you for the senior team, but right now we need to focus on the U17s and we want to get you on the team for the World Cup qualifiers. So we ended up getting my passport in time, and I made my international debut in Spain, which was against England. And England is a very good team. Props to them. We ended up coming out of that game losing 2-0, but it was a hard fought battle. Unfortunately, we didn't get the result. But yeah, that was my first international debut with the U17s.
What was it like the first game, and what's the atmosphere like? To put in the context, compare for people here who'd be more familiar with the St. Joe's. You're getting ready for the state championship game. How's this experience different?
I mean, honestly, it's very hard to compete with the St. Joseph atmosphere before our games. It's a different kind of energy before those games. But honestly, if I were to compare it, that's the closest I've ever been to having some experience like that. Our whole team, everybody, like the comp or everyone is very loving with each other and everyone gets along. Our chemistry is very good. So I think, especially in a rebuilding process, which was what was happening this year, this was kind of the rebuilding year for the 17s, solely because this was the World Cup qualifying year. And it, given that it was our first game playing against a top nation in the world. I'd say it was definitely very well thought out and very put together.
Uh, what was the competition like compared to what you're used to seeing in the FCAC and in the state?
Yeah, a lot of there's a big difference between the style of play. You can tell that the players that we're playing against are more intelligent technically, and they're not less physical but smarter in the way they use their body in a way, like in high school it's very like physical, kind of kick the ball, go go go, and like internationally it's very like calm, slow paced, and you have to know the game of soccer if you want to do well.
So you lose your first game and then what happens after that? How many games did you end up playing in all?
So we played 2 games in Spain. This was my first international trip. And we ended up losing our second game, which was against Sweden. They scored a last minute like ball that was getting knocked around in the box. And to this day, I had a chip over the goalie that went right above the crossbar, probably on the 92nd minute. So I lose sleep over it to this day. Like I cannot stop thinking about it. We could have possibly tied and had other chances. But yeah, those were the first 2 games. And then after that, the coaches talked to me beforehand. So I kind of knew so I ended up staying for a month fully in Spain.
Okay.
But I came home for one day to catch up on schoolwork from my teachers just to say like, hi, I'm alive, like I'm well. And then I went right back to Spain. And that was with the senior national team where I made my first professional debut there.
Okay, so this part I didn't even know. I didn't realize you were with the senior team too. I knew about the U17. So you actually played with the Philippine senior team too?
Yeah, I did. And that first time was in Spain, and I got a few minutes against Finland. And then the second debut was so I was actually in camp for the U17s, just training, like practicing for our upcoming tournament for the Asia Cup. And we were there, and I hadn't have had any knowledge of like any new upcoming trips, but we were there and ready to go home the next day. But the coaches were going to travel from there straight to South Korea for the senior team's friendlies against South Korea. They were playing 2 friendlies back to back, 2 days apart from each other. And they said to me, "Do you want to come with us and go to South Korea to play with them, basically?" And they talked to me and 2 or 3 other girls, I think. And the 4 of us ended up going to South Korea. No like plan, no nothing. We hadn't have packed for this long, but that ended up being almost a 3-week trip.
Wow, so those were friendly matches that you played?
Yes.
Okay. So when did you finally get back here for good?
That was actually a week, no, 2 weeks ago. I'm pretty sure it was May 13th.
So is this was pretty much like was this pretty much January through May?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, people are trying to put out an APB on you at St. Joseph. Where did she go? Uh, I mean, there's so many questions to ask. What stood out most about the experience? Was it the soccer? What was it? Cultural things, sightseeing, probably a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So I was just very grateful to be able to visit the country my grandfather grew up in. And I mean, because I got to go visit the Philippines to practice before the Asian Cup because they wanted us to get used to the time zone for Bali, and the heat was 100 degrees every day. We were either training 6 a.m. or 8 p.m. It was never like really in the middle of the day because of how hot it was, and it was on turf. So that
Wow.
made it a little more vigorous. But yeah, I was just very grateful to have given that opportunity. And it's almost, you don't really realize what we have here in the US until you go other places, because it is very different in other countries. And I kind of got to see that a little bit. So it all makes me feel very grateful for what I have here. And yeah,
So how many countries were you in all?
so it was Spain, South Korea, the Philippines, and then Indonesia.
That's wild. Usually you have to go on a term abroad in college to get that, and you don't even get that kind of experience. Was how many Americans were on the team?
um a majority of us are from out of the Philippines. There are a few girls on the team. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but I want to say at least 15 are from the US or Canada or
Okay.
somewhere, Australia maybe.
So it's pretty easy just in terms of communicating with everybody and befriending people and
Yeah.
so that and what was that, being part of putting being part of a whole brand new team with all these different girls, being put together.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, new faces, it's new personalities getting used to in such a short amount of time before we have to compete in a tournament very big. And I think all of the girls were very nice. We all got along very well. I couldn't have asked for anything more from them and the coaching staff, all of the coordinators for the team. Like everybody was important and everyone knew their role for everything. So it was all around great.
What were some of your favorite experiences, be they soccer or something different?
Um, I'm trying to think. This is a tough one because I really enjoyed like everything. I want to say going to the Philippines, not just for soccer, but being able to know that I'm here because I'm representing my country and our flag. And that was just really important to me. And knowing that I can play for my grandfather and my dad. And it was amazing having that to play for, because you don't really think about it that deep. Like if you're playing in high school, like, okay, yeah, I want to play for my parents, my little brother, myself, everything. But it's almost a lot more deeper when you're playing for your nation and you have a whole nation on your back, your whole team who's counting on you and you're counting on each other. Like it's just a different atmosphere. So I think that's definitely what my favorite part was.
How much of the time did you have one or both of your parents with you?
So out of the 2 weeks I was in, well, for Spain, I flew there by myself and my parents met me there. And I got to see them every time we played in a game for maybe 10 minutes after. And that was only twice. So then when we went to Indonesia or the Philippines, my dad went to the Philippines, but I didn't see him much. He kind of just spent time with my grandpa. And I saw him once, I think, because we had a friendly scrimmage there against a local Filipino team. And then in Bali, he flip flopped with my mom because they had to go watch my little brother at home. So my mom came to Bali and she kind of made a vacation out of that for herself. And I got to see her twice for 1 hour each time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were pretty much was it hard was it hard
Yeah,
being away from family and friends for so long?
yeah, there were definitely some hard moments as the trip was coming to the middle part of it. We were probably 2.5 weeks in. I started feeling a little homesick, which I predicted. When I was leaving, it was really hard for me to leave my little brother because I knew I was going to be missing his first birthday, which was really hard for me. So that was definitely tough, but I would get to have FaceTime calls with them. So, and I knew I would be coming back eventually. So it's mostly my family that I missed a lot.
I didn't realize your grandfather lived over there. It must have been so much pride for him to see his granddaughter representing his country.
Yeah, definitely. He told me that he is very proud of me and I should be proud too, which I really am.
I think we've all known that before you even went on this experience. So how how hard was it just doing things that a teenager does in school? I don't know if you wintertime, I guess there maybe aren't, it sounded like you're probably home in time for prom and stuff, but what was it like just being away from your friends, and what was it like staying current with your classes?
So before I left and we knew that, so for my first trip, I got home. It was only about a week, and that was a California camp. It was a shorter trip to start preparing for the tournament. That's when I realized, like, oh wow, just being away for this week, I'm kind of behind on classes. So we got in touch with a tutor, and I started coordinating with her, and she would talk to my teachers for me about content that I'm learning, and she would kind of have like Google Meets and Zoom calls like this, where she would teach basically what I'm doing. And a lot of props to her because she really helped me through junior year, which is a really tough year. So very grateful for that.
So was it sort of like being homeschooled to a certain extent?
Homeschooled with a lot less time for homeschooling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you gotta really squeeze in. Was it a bigger time crunch than you're accustomed to? And you're playing soccer here year round with everything you've done. Was it a bigger time crunch trying to make time for your academics?
Um, I think I managed doing a good job as the time went on. I know the first California trip I did struggle a little bit because there wasn't really a set place where I could do my schoolwork. As we went like travel to other countries, I mean, when we went to Spain, like I was playing with the women, none of them have to really do their homework, but
Right.
thankfully there was a couple other girls who are still in high school. There was actually three other ones, and they were all doing homework. So we just would go in the medical room. They set up a table for us. We'd all put our phones away and then just start doing our homework and stay focused. But it usually be for 2 hours. When we had a 2 hour gap, that was like, wow, we have time to do homework today. That's nice. Like, and if we're not doing homework or eating, stretching, rolling out, whatever, or playing soccer, we're sleeping. So it's really just eat, sleep, breathe soccer, which I enjoy so much. So
What 'cause, I mean, this is like a whole nother level. How much soccer related things are you doing that we don't see on the field? Obviously you're practicing, but you're probably doing a whole bunch of other things that are for the good of your soccer.
yeah, every day we would do daily wellness check-ins. So they would basically base our trainings off of how we were feeling from the day before that. And our nutrition was always very good. Weigh-ins every day to make sure we're keeping up with our fitness. And um, yeah, it was very organized and it was a nice system. It was like college on a national or international level, I would say. So I think it's a nice preview for when I go away for South Carolina.
Yeah, I was gonna say South Carolina is already getting a seasoned veteran by the when you get down there. You got another year here with us, fortunately.
Yes.
Uh, what was the hardest parts of it? Was there anything you really missed? Be it, I mean, obviously, they're your family, your friends. I
Mhm.
don't know, food or anything. I don't. Were there any real over there? Were there any hardships that you had to endure that were difficult?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we couldn't drink the water there. We could only drink bottled water, even when we're brushing our teeth. It couldn't be faucet because of like if we didn't live there, we probably most likely would have gotten sick, which actually was happening very often. Like almost every day, a new player was sick, and players were dropping like flies almost actually when we went to the Philippines. It could have been something with the food, something in the water if they accidentally drink it, but I would say 75% of our team was sick at one point.
Wow.
And not just like sick, like, oh, I can practice. Like it was laying in the bed, like almost throwing up, kind of sick. So,
Wow.
yeah, I was fortunate enough to not get the worst of it. I just had a headache one day, probably from the humidity change. That was the day we traveled to Indonesia from the Philippines. So I might have been like exhausted from the heat or the change in humidity. That's what the doctors were telling me. So,
Did you get to do much sightseeing at all in any of the countries?
not really. In the Philippines, we didn't. We were just strictly preparing for Bali. But when we got there, we actually had a rest day where we went to the beach and did yoga with our athletic trainer. And that was pretty much the most we've seen. Um, so we went to the beach and then they let us kind of go shopping in little shops on the boardwalk, if that's what you would call it there. So yeah, that was the most sightseeing I think I saw.
I mean, you're soccer 10 to 11 months a year, but is when this is all you're doing, is this like the most intensive soccer experience you've ever had?
I mean, I'd say playing wise, I know when I played against England, which was my first international game, it was a very defensive game for us. And I ran 10.9 miles. And I don't think I've ever done that before. So, in that sense, yes. But when I'm playing with St. Joe's, it's a different kind of intensity and high press that we definitely do, as you know. But I'd say they're both intense, but in their own different ways.
How about just in terms of an overall soccer? Because you're doing something soccer, and I've got to imagine you've never spent more time in a shorter span of time doing something soccer related, because training that you're doing, or things, I'm guessing, with fitness and other things that maybe you just haven't experienced yet because you're still in high
Mhm.
school.
Yeah, definitely. We would be training, team training, not just individually, twice a day sometimes, and with lifting at the gym. It wasn't heavy lifting, but it was just managing our strength and whatnot. And then it would also be keeping track, okay, eat 3 times a day. Sometimes if training would be at 6 a.m., we would eat a light breakfast before and then have a real breakfast afterwards. And then we would have training in the evening, but in between we would have our stretching every day, and on game days we would always go on a walk and kind of do mobilities and move around to get the blood flowing. So it really is like what I imagine college would be like, in the environment where there's nothing but soccer. And that's pretty much what I think college is going to be like. So I loved being there, and I think it's definitely helping me prepare to play.
Now, where do things stand for the future with your relationship with the team?
For the Philippines,
Yeah.
so I'm relatively sure there will be camps this summer or coming up in the next year or so. If they decide to call me back up, I would be fortunate to play with them again. But it's all a matter of what's going on or if there's any camps happening. So we're kind of just playing it by ear.
So it's basically that at any time, with whatever they're doing right now, they could call you and say, "We want you to come here."
Pretty much, it's usually about a week to 4 days before we have to leave that they tell us.
What are you basically at this point receptive to if they call you're coming?
Pretty much, yeah, definitely. I mean, the opportunities I'm being presented with are amazing. I mean, playing internationally against teams like South Korea, North Korea, Indonesia, England, all of these teams are amazing oppositions. And you can't really get that anywhere else, especially not in high school. So definitely to play against those teams is a great opportunity for me to develop as a player and as a person, like traveling the world. It's amazing. So
Was this a situation where Jack's gonna have to like lock you up and from mid-August on and make sure? What happens in September if the Philippines is calling Jack? Jack, Jack gonna have guards all around your house keeping you
oh
in?
my goodness. Well, actually, he's actually being very supportive with this, which he always is with everything that I'm doing. As long as I'm developing as a player, he doesn't care where it is. The if we had qualified for the World Cup, which we didn't, unfortunately, we had to win our last game, and we ended up tying 1-1 against South Korea.
Oh wow!
So yeah, it was tough. But if we had qualified, the World Cup would have been during high school season.
I'm assuming you would have gone and played in that.
Yes, I would have.
Is it kind of like mixed feelings where you really would have loved to have had that opportunity if you had won, but it'd be hard missing your some of your last year with St. Joseph?
I mean, yeah, definitely. A senior year, it's self-explanatory. It's senior year, especially like with our team. If we win this year, 4P, which would be very, very crazy. But I think playing in a World Cup is also something very special, and that doesn't just come around every day. And I think that would have definitely been a very fun experience and awesome to say I played in the World Cup. So we'll see.
It's pretty cool what soccer's and your skills have done for you. I mean, I thought we had covered everything, you know, a year ago between Gatorade Player of the Year 2 times, state championships, the ESPYs. I mean, I don't know how many high school students, unless they're movie stars or something, have been able to experience what you have. You've gotta feel real fortunate. I mean, obviously you've earned it with your skills and you've worked hard at that. So it's something you've earned, but it's also you got to feel fortunate that your skills have afforded you these opportunities.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it wasn't always like this. As I said, I think I mentioned this on another podcast before that. It wasn't always pretty, and the footwork was not there at all. I was a goalie actually at one point. So I'm very fortunate to have gotten to this point where I am today. And I think the biggest thing keeping me going is my dad. He's definitely probably my biggest supporter, right beside my mom, of course, and my little brother,
Your
who's kind
brother
of just
too. So yeah,
learning.
I see them at all the games. It's hard to put one ahead of the others.
Yeah.
Your dad's
But
just busy filming.
yeah, so he definitely pushes me to be the best that I can possibly be. And I think just keeping in the back of my mind that I'm my biggest competitor. I'm always comparing myself to my last game, to a game before that, my best game that I played. And I think that's the only way to really get better. So rather
Your mom,
comparing,
maybe your mom opens up a spa in the Philippines now, or
yeah, I guess we could
keep the
start that.
expansion going.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that would be funny.
Are you a much better soccer player now than you were the middle of November when you walked off the field in Hartford?
I think I have developed in ways that I might not have staying here in Connecticut. Like I said, playing against players internationally, girls who are playing in the Champions League in Europe. That's just some
That's
experience
crazy.
that I never. What was that?
I thought it's crazy.
Yeah, that I never could have gotten here. So yes, in that sense, I think I have, and I've gotten a sense to know um, what it's going to be like in college. Which again, it's not just the physically soccer that matters, but it's also what goes on in your mind and what your priorities are. So yes, in that sense, I think I have improved.
Do you need some time away from the pitch now?
Absolutely
Are
not.
are you burnt out at all?
Well, when I got back, I took a week off just to let my body rest, but I was still watching games and just kind of
You were
trying to
kicking
stay
a ball
involved.
around somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
What are your plans for the summer?
I'm actually playing with a summer league women's team. It's like a combination of college girls. There are a few high school girls on the team, but how it works is there's about, I want to say 40, 45 girls on the team, and it splits in half every week based on how you do in practice and in games. Our coach is actually Matt Cameron, and then former Penn State player Tiffany Weimer. You should definitely look her up. She's an amazing player, and she coaches us and plays with us.
All right.
So
Is
yes.
the team based out of in Connecticut?
Yes. So we practice in Connecticut. It's about, I think it's in Middletown, about 45 minutes from my house.
Okay.
So it's very convenient. Practices right now are before during school 7:30 a.m., which I can't make right now because I've missed a lot of school already. So that wouldn't be good. But actually today or this week, I was able to go to practice on Monday because it was Memorial Day and we didn't have school. And then we had a game on Tuesday, which I was able to play in for the first time.
When you got back here, did many people, most of St. Joe's, know what was going on, or it was like, God, I haven't seen you in a while. Where you been?
Yeah, no, we talked to all my teachers, and most of them were really understanding about me being away. All the faculty knew about it, my friends. So overall, they made it very easy, and everyone was very supporting to me.
That's really cool. You're you're in a different, you're luckily a different situation. I can only imagine your options to write a college essay, what you would write about, what's happening to you in your life. Most people struggle to find one. You'd have to choose from about 30.
Yeah, I mean, we actually just started drafting our essays the other day, and I actually didn't decide to write about soccer. I decided to write about growing up because I feel like that's happening very fast right now, given that school, like so much school is being missed, and how senior year is sneaking up on me really fast. And I have friends graduating right now, which kind of led me to the idea of writing about growing up. So that's kind of what I drafted about the other day. Especially because I'm very close with my parents, and now my little brother, leaving him is going to be very hard next year, come June actually, because we leave at the beginning of July. So it's gonna be this kind of like my last summer.
Well, fortunately for us, we have one more year of you around here, but I've been wanting to get you on here ever since I saw what was happening. And like I said before this, I didn't even know the extent of everything. I just knew a little bit about it. But boy, Alexa, that's just really cool. I'm really happy that you had a chance to have this experience and that it worked out so well for you. And
Thank you.
had some rest. Thanks a lot for taking a little time here to share your story. And before you know it, St. Joe's, Staples, Ridgefield, back at it again.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me today.
All right, thanks, Alexa. And that's this week's episode of the Ruden Report podcast. Again, I want to thank Alexa Pino for joining me. I want to thank Cooper Boardman for the sound editing. We'll be back with another podcast next week.